Most people think the most expensive financial mistake in your 20s is buying dumb stuff. The expensive car, the luxury apartment, the random online shopping, the vacations you couldn't really afford. But those are not the biggest mistake. The most expensive financial mistake people make in their 20s is much quieter than that. It's building a lifestyle before building a financial foundation. And once that happens, everything starts to look fine on the surface, while your future gets more expensive underneath it. Because the real damage is not just what you spend, it's what you delay. The delayed savings, the delayed investing, the delayed emergency fund, the delayed financial discipline. And your 20s are the one decade where delays cost the most, because time matters more than income in the beginning. So in this video, I want to break down why this mistake is so expensive, why smart people fall into it, and what to do instead. If you're in your 20s or even your 30s trying to fix what your 20s started, this is one of the most important money lessons to understand early. Because most financial mistakes are not really math problems first, they're behavior problems. They come from the way people respond to freedom, income, comparison, and lifestyle pressure. And in your 20s, all of that hits at once. You start earning money, you start making your own decisions, you want independence, you want to enjoy your life. And without realizing it, you can start spending like someone financially secure before you've actually become financially secure. That gap is where a lot of long-term financial pain begins. Let's define the mistake clearly. The most expensive mistake in your 20s is organizing your life around consumption instead of cash flow. In other words, you build your monthly lifestyle first and only think about saving, investing, or emergencies after everything else is already claimed. That's the trap. Because once your paycheck is already committed to rent, car payments, subscriptions, dining out, travel, debt payments, and random convenience spending, your future only gets whatever is left. And usually, that ends up being almost nothing. This is why the problem is bigger than spending too much. It's really about building a financial structure with no margin, no cash cushion, no investing habit, no protection against emergencies, no room to recover from mistakes. Fidelity highlights common young adult money mistakes like neglecting savings, overspending on housing, carrying high-interest credit card balances, and not saving for retirement early. That's really the same pattern showing up in different forms, a life with too many financial outputs and not enough financial stability underneath it. Fidelity. The reason this mistake becomes so expensive is simple. Your 20s have the highest compounding potential of any decade in your adult life. Not because you make the most money, but because money invested early has the longest runway to grow. That means a dollar invested at 25 can be dramatically more valuable than a dollar invested at 35. So when people spend their 20s saying, "I'll start later," what they're really saying is, "I'm giving up the cheapest wealth-building years I will ever have." And most people do not realize how serious that is. They think waiting a few years is harmless, but a few years in your 20s is not just a few years. It's lost compounding, lost habits, lost flexibility, lost momentum. This is also why retirement regret shows up so often later in life. Bankrate found that Americans' most common financial regret was not saving for retirement early enough, ahead of even taking on too much credit card debt. Bankrate. That tells you something important. People don't usually regret not looking richer in their 20s. They regret getting started. Now, here's the dangerous part. This mistake doesn't feel irresponsible while it's happening. It actually feels normal. You get your first decent paycheck, and your life expands to meet it. Maybe your rent goes up because you want your own place. Maybe you finance a car because you think that's what adults do. Maybe your spending rises because now you can finally enjoy your money. And none of those decisions seems catastrophic on its own. That's why the trap works. It doesn't destroy you in one dramatic moment. It slowly removes your margin. Then one unexpected expense shows up and exposes the whole thing. A medical bill, a layoff, a car repair, a move, a family emergency. And suddenly, you realize your lifestyle was stable as long as nothing went wrong. That's not stability. That's fragility. So the real issue is not whether your life looks put together. The issue is whether your finances can absorb stress without turning into debt. Once debt enters the picture, the cost of this mistake gets even bigger, because now you're not just delaying wealth building, you're paying interest while delaying wealth building, and that's financially brutal. This is especially true with credit cards. If you don't have emergency savings, then every disruption gets outsourced to debt. And once high-interest debt starts growing, compounding begins working against you. The same math that could have built your future starts draining it instead. That's one reason too much credit card debt remains one of Americans' top financial regrets. Bankrate survey found 15% of respondents cited taking on too much credit card debt as their biggest regret, ahead of even not saving early for retirement. Bankrate. That tells you something important. People don't usually regret not looking richer in their 20s. They regret getting started. At a deeper level, this mistake is really about identity. A lot of people in their 20s are trying to feel established before they're actually secure. They want the apartment that proves they're doing well, the car that signals progress, the lifestyle that makes adulthood feel real. But wealth does not come from looking financially complete. It comes from creating financial margin first. That means doing things that often look less impressive in the short term, living below your means, keeping fixed costs low, saving before spending, investing before upgrading, avoiding debt when possible, leaving room in your budget for life to be unpredictable. That kind of behavior rarely looks exciting, but it creates the one thing expensive lifestyles often don't: options. And options are what money is really supposed to buy. So what should someone in their 20s do instead? Start by building the boring foundation. First, create a habit of automatic saving. Not when you have extra, not when you feel more ready, automatically. Second, build an emergency fund as early as possible. It doesn't need to be perfect on day one, it just needs to exist. Third, start investing early, even if the number feels small. Small amounts matter much more when time is on your side. Fourth, if your employer offers a retirement match, capture it. Fidelity points out that failing to contribute enough to get the full match is basically leaving part of your compensation behind. Fidelity. And fifth, treat lifestyle upgrades with suspicion. Just because you can afford a payment does not mean you can afford the long-term cost of making that payment normal. One more thing. If you ever change jobs, don't casually cash out retirement money. Investopedia notes that nearly 30% of under 30 job changers cash out their 401k, even though taxes, penalties, and lost compounding can turn a small short-term decision into a massive long-term loss. Investopedia. So if we boil this down, the most expensive financial mistake people make in their 20s is this. They build the appearance of stability before they build actual stability. They upgrade their life before securing their cash flow. They normalize spending before normalizing saving. They delay investing because it feels small now and only realize later how expensive that delay really was. If you're in your 20s, the goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to make sure your future is not paying for the version of you that wanted everything too early. Build the foundation first. Then let the lifestyle grow on top of something solid. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to Ken Talks Money for more simple, practical videos on wealth, behavior, and better financial decisions. And in the comments, tell me this. What's one money habit people should build in their 20s before they upgrade their lifestyle? See you in the next one.